Before the Marines entered the jungle, something moved ahead of them. Not tanks, not scouts, dogs. On Guam, Marine war dogs walked into danger first, sniffing out hidden Japanese soldiers, caves, ambushes, and traps before men walked straight into death. One Doberman named Kurt gave a warning that may have saved hundreds of Marines. But Guam's story doesn't end there. Because after the island was declared secure, one Japanese soldier vanished into the jungle and did not come out for 28 years. This is the Battle of Guam, the Pacific battle where Marines, soldiers, war dogs, and the people of Guam fought to take back an island trapped under occupation. Guam had been a U.S. territory since 1898. Real people, real homes. A people living under the American flag called it home. In December 1941, just days after Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded. The island was defended by a small, lightly armed force of Marines and sailors. They didn't stand a chance against the larger Japanese invasion force, and Guam fell almost immediately. For the next 3 years, the native Chamorro people endured brutal occupation. More than 1,100 Chamorro people were killed, and thousands more suffered forced labor, beatings, internment, and torture. Not everyone who hid from the occupation was captured. A Navy radioman named George Ray Tweed evaded the Japanese for 31 months, moved secretly between Chamorro families who risked their own lives to protect him. He was the only American to survive the entire occupation in hiding, rescued by a U.S. ship just before the invasion began. So when American forces returned in July 1944, this wasn't conquest. This was liberation. Before a single Marine set foot on the beach, American battleships and aircraft pounded Guam for nearly 2 weeks straight. Battleships fired hundreds of 16-inch shells. Destroyers fired over 16,000 rounds. The island was getting flattened, but the ocean itself was an obstacle. Guam was ringed by jagged coral reefs, so underwater demolition teams, frogmen, had to swim in first and clear over 900 mines and obstacles before landing craft could even reach the shore. Then on July 21, 1944, the invasion began. The 3rd Marine Division landed at Asan. The 1st Provisional Marine Brigade landed 5 miles south at Agate. The Army's 77th Infantry Division joined in as well, with so few landing vehicles available that soldiers had to wade through chest-high water, holding rifles and ammunition over their heads, for hundreds of yards. Just 8 minutes after the 1st Marines hit the sand at Asan Beach, 2 officers planted the American flag using nothing but a boat hook. 8 minutes. The flag was back. But the island was far from free. At Agate Beach, a hidden Japanese concrete blockhouse at a spot called Gaan Point opened fire on the very first wave. 75 Marines were killed before that single position was finally overrun. But the Marines weren't alone in that jungle. Some of them moved on 4 legs. 60 Marine war dogs, mostly Doberman Pinschers and German Shepherds, landed with the 3rd Marine Division. They walked ahead of patrols, froze when danger was near, sniffed out hidden snipers, and searched caves Marines couldn't safely enter. One Doberman named Kurt became a legend. On the 2nd day of the battle, Kurt alerted his platoon to Japanese troops hidden in the jungle ahead. That warning gave the Marines precious seconds to react. But once the enemy realized they'd been spotted, they threw grenades toward Kurt. He was badly wounded and died that night. He's believed to have saved hundreds of Marines with that single warning. He became the 1st Marine war dog killed on Guam. By the time the battle ended, 25 war dogs had died and 20 more were wounded. They weren't mascots, they were Marines. The real crisis came at a Japanese stronghold called Fonte Plateau, overlooking the entire Asan beachhead. If the Marines couldn't take it, the beachheads could stay trapped against the sea, cut off from each other. At about 3 a.m. on July 26th, the Japanese committed everything. Troops poured down from Fonte Plateau in a massive banzai charge. Soldiers had reportedly been given sake and ordered to fight with a no-surrender mindset. They launched 7 consecutive waves before dawn, screaming as they charged straight at American tanks and artillery. The Marine line bent. It did not break. By sunrise, roughly 3,200 of Japan's best remaining soldiers on Guam were dead. Japan had thrown its strongest men at that line and lost them. The failed attack broke the back of the Japanese defense. Guam was officially declared secure on August 10, 1944, at 11:31 in the morning. But secure didn't mean it was over.
We are here
Roughly
to help.
7,500 Japanese soldiers were still out there,
You're safe.
scattered through the jungle. One of them was Sergeant Shoichi Yokoi. Yokoi and about 10 other soldiers fled into the jungle rather than surrender. Over the years, his companions died or disappeared, until by the 1960s, he was completely alone. He built an underground shelter near a riverbank, camouflaged with vegetation. He survived on coconuts, papaya, shrimp, and small animals he trapped. He made his own clothes from tree bark. He hid for 28 years. By his own account, Yokoi knew the war had ended by the early 1950s. He'd seen leaflets. He understood, but he stayed hidden anyway, afraid of what would happen if he came out, afraid of being seen as a coward for surviving instead of dying in battle. He chose decades alone in a jungle over walking back into the world. In January 1972, two Chamorro hunters checking fish traps stumbled onto him. He panicked and tried to fight back before they overpowered him. When he realized what was happening, Yokoi asked to be killed rather than captured. Instead, he was treated kindly and sent home to Japan, where he was hailed as a hero, even though he'd spent nearly 20 years of those 28 knowing the war was already over, too afraid to come home. Guam was officially declared secure in August of 1944. But for one man, walking out of that jungle took almost 30 more years, and the hardest part wasn't survival. It was finally believing it was safe to stop. That's the story most people have never heard about, one of America's most important Pacific victories. Fought by Marines, soldiers, dogs, and the Chamorro people who never stopped fighting for their own home. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. There's a lot more history that deserves to be told.